Ed Mead passed away on November 6th, 2023, his 82nd birthday, and I wanted to write a few words in his memory. I've never written an obituary, so I hope to do Ed's memory justice. The thing is, he did so much that was of historical importance that it's impossible to capture everything. In fact, I don't know that I even know many of the historically significant things he did that must be remembered. But I do know one little little known but major thing that he must not be forgotten for. That being his role as the material force behind the three historical California prisoner hunger strikes of 2011 and 2013, where 6,000, 12,000, and then 30,000 California prisoners went on strike, protesting the abuse of solitary confinement in the Cali prison system, which initiated the international campaign against solitary confinement in America, and the agreement between Cali prisoner groups to stop racial violence that followed a few years later. I remember how it all happened. When they were in prison together in Washington State, Ed and Paul Wright created Prison Legal News, a self-published newsletter that grew to become an invaluable critical legal and political information magazine for prisoners, our supporters, and movement activists alike. Once out of prison, Ed continued to self-publish newsletters aimed to assist, educate, and politicize prisoners. One was Prison Art, which served as both a platform through which prisoners could generate much-needed funds by selling their artwork, and also as an educational medium. Prison Art was sent mostly to prisoners in the California prison system. A persistent theme that Ed pushed in his newsletters was to build unity among prisoners across lines of race, gender orientation, and group affiliation. California prisoners were deeply divided along these lines, and the prison pigs kept violence festering between them based upon these divisions, which they used as ammunition to vilify the prisoners and justify the abuse of indefinite solitary confinement, the operation of the shoes, and to generate funding for prison expansion and intensification of harsh conditions. In his newsletters, Ed constantly pointed out to the prisoners how they were being manipulated to make their own conditions worse and benefit the pigs. I also wrote in Ed's newsletters pressing the same things. His efforts began to take effect, and California prisoners began uniting going on hunger strikes, smaller isolated ones at first, challenging the abuses. Then came the call led by prisoner leaders who had been isolated in the short corridor of Cali's shoe for the prisoners to unite and protest the use of solitary to indefinitely lock away anyone profiled as a gang member. And most of those in the short corridor, had been, and compelling prisoners to snitch or debrief as the only avenue out of solitary. They were able to communicate to others across the Cali system through Ed's newsletters. And so the hunger strikes began, which Ed created specific newsletters for, Rock, Bastia, and others. I was able to help enlist prisoners in my own home state of Virginia and other states to join the Cali prisoners in the hunger strikes. And I drew the image that came to be the logo for the strikes. These strikes put the movement against the abuse of solitary confinement across the United States on the international map and led to the reform of its use and conditions across the country. Ed's autobiography, Lumping, has also been a valuable and inspiring tool in multitudes of prisoners' political awakening. We share the same publisher, and Ed had me sent an advanced copy of the manuscript when it was named Paper, Rock, Scissors. He asked me to draw a cover graphic for the book. I wasn't able to get the drawing to the publisher in time and suggested he use a prior drawing I did of him standing with one of his dogs. He declined, sending word that that particular drawing looked too cartoonish. He went ahead and used a photo of himself for the book cover and ended up calling the book Lumping, the very title I wanted to give my own autobiography, although unknown to Ed, whenever I decided to write one, which I am now doing. Ed and I were close friends and comrades. I met him during the earliest days of my own political development, around 2001. Up until his passing in 2023, he told me over and again that he considered me the only person he knew that was still a revolutionary. We exchanged political views and critiques often, even as he endured an almost superhuman prolonged struggle against advanced cancer. I knew many people who worked with Ed. Not many knew how to relate to him. He was a straight shooter who said what was on his mind. He came from the lower sector of society and spent many years in prison based upon living his politics, not merely talking them. He engaged in armed struggle against the state, while others merely paid lip service to it. He wasn't like many white leftists who have messianic complexes and act to control the movements and work of people of color, or presume to speak for us, or to choose or validate or not validate our leaders based upon their own value judgment and tell us how to engage in our struggles. He didn't try to make us feel as if we owned him or owed him something for forsaking his skin privilege or bestowing the benefits of his assistance and preferential access to resources based upon that privilege. Ed joined us and lived, suffered, loved, and fought alongside us. He was a genuine comrade and proletarian revolutionary. In thinking of him, I'm reminded of another sorely missed white comrade who passed over several years ago, Karen Smith. Their lives and work alongside the marginalized and oppressed, especially prisoners, should serve as examples to the white left and what genuine camaraderie looks like. I can't say enough in